So markets continue crashing today, and in fact, it's multiple asset classes, multiple countries, and multiple areas. So let me show you guys what's going on. Global stocks sell off as AI valuations concern persist ahead of NVIDIA earnings. And basically, long story short, there's a lot of overvalued assets out there. And the real question is, how big is this bubble and how bad is this going to get? Because ultimately, the sort of optimism that you have, like, oh, we're all going to make tons and tons of money, the reality isn't going to pan out. I'm just being frank with you guys. It's kind of like when Donald Trump says, hey guys, we're, trillions and trillions and trillions of dollars. He really says this stuff, and the numbers keep getting pumped up. First with 17 trillion we're making, and then it's 20, and now it's 22, and I'm sure tomorrow it'll be 23 trillion. Like, what's a trillion here or there, right? But when you actually start to actually look at the details of stuff, you realize, man, this is a massive bubble. And the money isn't coming in. And so this is sort of what this is all about, right? How overvalued is everything? And then you got this basically monkey coins and doggy coins and stuff like that. That's all selling off your crypto. Crypto plunge adds to angst as markets extend a broad retreat because all this stuff is connected. And then you got just markets as a whole, right? S&P 500 eyes longest losing run since August. So it's just been a big sell-off. And it's interesting because the trigger, actually, when this started happening, really was you had the government shut down, and the government came out of the shutdown, and we didn't really get like any positive news like, hey, here's all the government data and everything's going to be going great. It's more like the government reopened, and then they're slowly tricking out stuff of like how the economy's doing, and we may or not ever get good job numbers on this stuff. What I mean by good job numbers, like reliable job numbers, however you want to put it. And if we do get numbers, it'll probably be ugly because part of what everything's going on right now is, all the investments going into AI to replace workers. Like, it's just really ugly out there. And so I'm not shocked when your headlines today are, longest losing run. And then you're talking about fears of AI and crypto, right? Crash, basically. And then when you eye the crypto market, all of this money is just coming out. You can see it. Crypto market sheds 1.2 trillion as traders shun speculative assets. And when you read the description of it, it's like a direct mirror of what you don't want to do. Here's what it says. Crypto investors love leverage. So basically you have all these people out there borrowing a whole bunch of money to buy a whole bunch of risky stuff. And when things are going up, you're like, yeah, I want to put all my money into these said things. But when it crashes, man, you can go underwater very, very quickly. And this kind of stuff will trade 24/7, right? So we'll see what happens. This is from crypto people, Bitwise Asset Management. They say, what we see time and time again is that traders get out over their skis. They think this time is different. And of course it's not, right? And for those of you who lived through this stuff before, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm 50 if you don't know. I lived through .com bubble. I lived through great financial crisis. For me, watching this whole AI and crypto stuff, it feels like a combination of the two. Right? You have like this crazy, financial risk out there and weird structuring on the stuff, be it your crypto. And then you have like the AI sort of mirroring the .com bubble. It's not exactly the same, because, history is sort of what they always say, it echoes and rhymes or repeats and rhymes, not exactly the same, but similar. And also it's like, if you look at what's going on in the White House, they're celebrating like it's 1920, Great Gatsby kind of parties and stuff, which is right before the crash. And this is sort of what we're seeing. When you read some of the stuff, you'll see like how ridiculous the crypto market is. I'll read it. It says, more than 1 trillion has been wiped from cryptocurrency market in the past 6 weeks, right? So money's just bleeding out of it. It's concerned about lofty tech valuations, so a bunch of companies overvalued. And the path of U.S. interest rates have fueled a sell-off in speculative assets. And basically, the Trump and all his buddies are like, we got to keep cutting rates, get the borrowing going. The Fed, every time I check on that, they're really concerned about liquidity. And Scott Besson, I told you guys before, is already taking meetings with banks and stuff like that. And they also want to loosen bank regulations. So it's all about liquidity and overvalued companies. And then you got the basically worthless crypto that's well overvalued. So it's a massive bubble. And I didn't realize it was this many. Like it's always crazy how many coins are out there. It says the total market value of more than 18,000 coins tracked by the CoinGecko has tumbled 25% since a market peak at October 6th. So according to this, October 6th was your peak in crypto, and now 1.2 trillion is leaked out of this stuff. And I think Bitcoin is down. It's like 28% or something like that. It's affecting multiple markets. So you got Hong Kong, Japan, South Korea, Europe, also Wall Street, NASDAQ, etc. And then you also have splintering between relations between countries. So this isn't necessarily the biggest news in USA, but it is big news in Asia. So basically, Japan made statements to the fact that if China were to, say, invade Taiwan, Japan would help to defend Taiwan. And, when you say stuff like that, China gets really, really angry. And then they start basically, what's hard to say, like cutting off financial relations and basically boycotting it. And so what it ends up being, some of the national companies or state-owned companies, which a lot of the really, really big companies, they're telling their people to like cancel events that have to do with Japan, cancel any sort of tour groups. They're canceling any sort of release of new films, of Japanese films in China, and just basically that's just a boycott. And China actually did this to Korea before, and it was a major, major hit to Korea. And I have friends who say, for example, you make a film or you make some sort of product, and you were planning on selling it in the Chinese market, and China can just close their markets whenever they want like this. So this is actually a really serious thing happening right now, and we'll see how this continues. And then when you look to the U.S. market, it was funny because this article came out today in the Wall Street Journal, and it's exactly the stuff that we've been talking about on this channel. I just mentioned it yesterday, how I'm talking about comparing the whole AI crypto stuff to the dot-com bubble, because I lived through it, I remember. And it was funny because I'll read it, and I want to get your opinion on this also. It says, the most joyless tech revolution ever. AI is making us rich and unhappy. It's kind of interesting because, when you think about that, where Trump talks about the markets are going up and, we're all getting all this money, et cetera. But then when you look around, how people are feeling about the whole, like, why are we getting rich, be it AIs and your cryptos, like it's not really making our lives better. And this is different than the internet, right? And you could argue, some people could argue, oh, Chris, I hate the internet, but literally you're watching this channel on the internet. So it's different. Like there's a fundamental use case for the internet, whereas say like just talking about crypto, what's the fundamental use case? Like it's not quite the same. The use value of the crypto is not there. And I get it. There's young kids out there that say, oh, Chris, you're so dumb. The use value of cryptos, we're all going to be rich. Okay, great. This is the chart, and it's a fascinating one. It says Magnificent Seven Composite. So basically the blue line represents the paper wealth or the high valuations of companies, however you want to call it, but it's been going up, right? And then consumer sentiment is going down. And that's sort of like your average consumer on how they feel about buying big purchases in the future. And there's definitely a divide. And we've talked about the K-shaped economy before, where the rich get richer and the poor get poorer. That's basically what it ends up being. When you read through this, you'll see what I'm saying. It says, artificial intelligence might be the most transformed technology in generations. That might be true. It is also the most joyless, right? Because again, this whole goal of this thing is to replace people. While Wall Street greets AI with open arms, ordinary Americans respond with ambivalence, anxiety, and even dread. And this is the fundamental question right here is, how similar is this AI stuff to the internet, rise in the dot-com bubble? Like how similar? And so for example, this was an old survey. It says, this isn't like the dot-com era. A survey in 1995 found 72% of respondents comfortable with new technology, such as computers and internet. Just 24 were not. And guys, like I told you guys, I'm 50, so I lived through all this stuff. For me, I was always excited about the internet. It was interesting. Like I remember, when email first became a thing. And for those of you who remember a time before email, and then email comes out, it's like pretty interesting, right? And then I remember, when forums were a thing, I used to go on these kind of forums. I remember the whole, was it America Online, and they would have like different chatting rooms kind of stuff. And then MSN used to have these kind of chatting rooms, and just seeing the evolution of how we started taking everything online and started ordering more stuff online, playing games, any number of things. But, just the adoption of this thing was very interesting. It just says 72% were comfortable with the technology, computers, and the internet. The crypto stuff, though, is just really, really different. And then you get into the AI. So, for example, it says fast forward to AI now, and those proportions have flipped. 31% are comfortable with AI, while 68% are uncomfortable. And so that's the fundamental question then is, do you agree with the sentiment? For those of you old enough to remember, like, do you remember when say 1995, were you excited about, hey, I want to get a new computer, hey, I want to be part of the internet, hey, I want to, look at whatever websites, or I want to build a website, right? Whereas today, just for example, just regular person watching today, do you feel like, hey, I really want to use AI, I want to do it every day, I want to, integrate it into my life nonstop, I really want AI assistance, right? I'm just curious. Now, some people do use AI, I'll just be frank with you guys, but it just depends where you're at. Today, the optimism is largely confined to AI architects and Gimlet Eye executives calculating how much AI can reduce headcount, while workers wonder whether they'll be replaced by AI, right? This is the divide. If you're the executive, the CEO, you're looking, oh my God, AI is like the best thing ever. I can fire everybody, can make even more money. But like if you're the worker, you're like, great, AI is going to replace me. That's what people are worried about, right? Or someone who knows AI, right? Meta Platforms, Microsoft, and Amazon, the three leading purveyors of AI, have all announced layoffs this year. And there's an interesting chart here also, which I want to show you guys. Percentage saying an industry should have more government regulations. And actually the tech and AI out of all of these came at the top, meaning, again, people are saying we need more regulation on this stuff. So you also got energy on there, healthcare, financial services, food and beverage, and real estate. And I would argue all these things need regulation in some form, right? You want to make sure you protect consumers. The tech and AI stuff is interesting because you're dealing with so many new things that we haven't necessarily talked about in the past. So for example, if you saw the most recent South Park episode, they did a really good job talking about basically revenge videos. And the idea was that I would use someone's, image, someone's video, someone's photo, and then I make an AI generated video having the person do things that they didn't do, and having person do things that, well, let's put this, compromising positions and doesn't paint them in a good light. I'll leave it at that. If you saw this South Park episode, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. I'll just say it's really, really raunchy. Or you put someone, image and picture in a video saying things that they didn't say. And in fact, this is actually a major problem on YouTube. Some of the channels that you watch, in their thumbnails, they'll just flat out lie. They'll take someone's image, right? Be it a president or other, public figure, doing things they didn't do. It's just an outright lie. And it's actually a major problem. And I think it's only going to get worse, unfortunately, the deep fake stuff. And then you'll have, people will now start to run political ads or just put stuff on social media again, using people's images, saying stuff they didn't say and doing stuff they didn't do. And people will basically lose touch of reality and lose grasp of like what is real anymore. And so my personal opinion is we got to come up with some sort of way to protect reality here. The people who will say, no, Chris, you're just so stupid. That's free speech. I can take, whatever figure that I want and put words in their mouth. And that's just my freedom of speech. But I'm just telling you guys, that's a slippery slope. And so in my opinion, I think we need more regulation on that kind of stuff. Or, all of they say, for example, surveillance laws and privacy issues out there, to where I saw a video recently to where ICE was out running around and they're just like scanning people's faces and then searching, whatever databases. There's going to be a lot of, like this new tech and AI stuff. There's going to be a lot of questions on, how we're going to handle it going forward. So that's my thoughts on this. I'd like to hear yours, and I'll catch you all in the next video.